Hello, Scorpio. I'm Selena Hart, and I'm here to share something that may shift the way you look at yourself, not just for today, but for the cycles to come. The 3rd of July is not an ordinary day for you. The energy moving through your chart right now is quiet, but powerful, subtle like a whisper, yet undeniable if you pause long enough to feel it. If you're watching this, it's not by accident. Something inside you, perhaps your intuition, your dreams, or that quiet ache you carry has led you here. And I want to tell you, it's time to listen. There is a message waiting, not from the outside world, not from me, but from the very center of your soul. A truth that has been patiently sitting beneath the surface, asking to be seen. This isn't new knowledge, Scorpio. In fact, it's ancient. It's something your spirit has always known, but the world around you may have conditioned you to forget. Today, that changes. There is something essential about your sign, about the way you move through death and rebirth, the way you feel deeper than most, the way you survive what others cannot, that has been misunderstood, overlooked, or even hidden for lifetimes. But not anymore. Today is about remembrance. And if you're willing to go there with me, I promise we're going to uncover something you've been waiting to hear for a very long time. Scorpio, while some signs are born to illuminate, you were born to transform. You don't carry the solar blaze of Leo's original flame, that bright, outward-facing radiance that demands to be seen. What pulses within you is different. It's quieter, deeper, and far older. You carry what I call the sacred current of primordial rebirth. Not a flame, but a tide, an ancient, subterranean force that moves beneath the surface of things, unseen but utterly undeniable once it begins to rise. This energy is not loud. It doesn't ask for attention. It simply arrives, slowly dismantling what is false, exposing what is hidden, and breathing life into what has long been buried. It is not a metaphor. It is a truth you live every day, whether you've named it or not. You've probably felt it your whole life, that knowing that cuts through people's words, that subtle dissonance when someone says one thing but feels another. The way your body reacts to dishonesty, to false flattery, to emotional masks. You don't just see through people, Scorpio. You feel through them. You read the energetic undercurrents that others overlook. And while some have tried to tell you that this is too much, too intense, or too suspicious, I want you to understand something clearly. This ability is not a flaw. It is not a personality quirk. It is not paranoia. It is your sacred instrument. It is how the universe chose to work through you. You were not sent here to play on the surface. You were sent to go into the shadows, the places others are too afraid to look, and to bring truth back with you. Your energy doesn't just expose illusions, it strips them away. And in their place, you plant something honest, something alive, something that has the power to endure. That is why your presence can feel unsettling to those who still depend on denial, to feel safe. You are not here to maintain comfort. You are here to awaken, to deconstruct the false, and make space for what is real. And no, that's not always an easy path. But Scorpio, it's yours. And it is sacred. So the next time you feel yourself picking up on what others miss, the next time your body tightens, because something isn't being said but is definitely being felt, the next time you walk into a room and instinctively know who's grieving, who's lying, and who's about to break, don't question it. Don't suppress it. That's not oversensitivity. That's your gift in motion. You were born with the ability to read the soul beneath the mask. And in a world that's starving for truth, your perception is not only necessary, it's revolutionary. Scorpio, one of the earliest messages you likely received, spoken or unspoken, was that your emotions were too much, that you were too intense, too reactive, too easily wounded. From a young age, the world began offering you lessons in emotional suppression. Calm down. Don't take it so personally. Let it go. You may have internalized these phrases as survival tools, learning to dampen your reactions, to dull your instincts, to appear more stable, more acceptable. But what no one told you, what perhaps no one even understood, is that the very intensity they tried to quiet was never a problem. It was a gift. It was your guidance system, your spiritual radar. You feel so deeply because you are wired to perceive what others are numb to. Your sorrow runs deep because it doesn't just belong to you. You often carry grief that doesn't have words yet, energy that hasn't been acknowledged, ancestral pain that has passed through generations without being healed. That depth is not something you fabricated. It is something you were born with, and it serves a higher purpose than just emotional turbulence. It's how your soul locates what's unhealed in yourself and others. Your emotional storms are not random chaos. They are sacred intelligence initiations that pull you into the underworld so that you can return bearing the wisdom most are too afraid to seek. The wounds you carry are not punishments. They are rites of passage. Every heartbreak, every betrayal, every moment you felt like the only one who saw what no one else would acknowledge, those were not signs that you were broken. They were signs that you were being prepared, because you were never meant to just survive pain. You were meant to understand it so deeply that you could walk others through it. And not with empty platitudes or surface-level comfort, but with a presence forged in fire and sorrow and resurrection. You are a healer, not in the soft, sentimental sense, but in the alchemical, soul-transforming way that only someone who has died and been reborn can offer. So if you've ever felt ashamed of your emotional depth, if you've ever wished you could just feel less, I invite you to reconsider. What you call intensity is actually spiritual perception. What you call emotional overload is sacred sensitivity. And what you thought disqualified you from love, connection, or ease may in fact be the very thing that makes you a vessel of extraordinary healing, not just for others, but first and foremost for yourself. Scorpio, the depth of your emotional waters is both your strength and your challenge. And depending on when you were born in this intense season, the way you navigate that current, the way you either flow with it or resist it, tends to take on certain patterns. These aren't fixed destinies, but familiar pathways. And today, we name them not to label you, but to bring awareness to the places where your energy may be quietly damned, asking to be released. If you were born in the early days of November, your soul likely carries the imprint of deep emotional vigilance. Somewhere in your early experiences, whether through subtle betrayals or direct violations of trust, you learned that safety required control. That to prevent heartbreak, you needed to anticipate every possible threat, every shift in tone, every change in rhythm. And so, without even realizing it, you began to hold tightly to people, to outcomes, to narratives that made you feel secure. But this grasp, though born of wisdom, comes at a cost. The tighter you hold, the more exhausted you become. Freedom, true freedom of spirit, requires trust. And for you, Scorpio, the healing is not in letting go completely, but in learning to loosen your grip enough to let life breathe through you again. For those born in mid-November, the wound tends to manifest more internally. You've mastered the art of concealment. Your emotional landscape is vast and vivid, but what you show to the world is often filtered, edited, carefully controlled. Somewhere along the way, perhaps you decided that revealing your inner truth would make you too vulnerable, too exposed. And so you became the confidant, the observer, the one who knows but rarely shares. But this withholding, though protective, can quietly cut you off from the nourishment of true intimacy. People may love you, but they don't always know you. And part of your evolution now is allowing yourself to be seen not in fragments, not through performance, but in the raw, radiant truth of who you really are. And for Scorpios, born in the final stretch of the season toward late November, the exhaustion may feel existential. You've been through so many cycles of death and rebirth that your soul carries a kind of sacred fatigue. The highs have been high, the lows have been harrowing, and somewhere along the way, you may have started to wonder if the next chapter will ever feel new. The pattern here is not about control or concealment, but about weariness, a subtle disengagement from hope. When you've reinvented yourself so many times, it's tempting to assume that all new beginnings will eventually end in loss. But this pattern, too, is ready to be released. Because what waits for you now is not another descent, but a higher level of embodiment. A way of living that doesn't just survive the cycles, but integrates them into wisdom, power, and peace. Each of these expressions, though different, stems from the same sacred source, the need to protect your essence. But Scorpio, your essence doesn't need protection, it needs expression. And the more you learn to trust your own transformation, the more you'll see that your greatest strength was never your ability to guard yourself. It was always your ability to regenerate, to feel it all, and still rise, again and again, until you no longer fear the waves because you remember, you are the ocean. Scorpio, in a world that often rewards conformity and quiet compliance, your presence was never meant to blend in. You were not born to make others comfortable, to smooth over tension, or to shrink yourself into roles that feel safe but false. There is something in you fierce, unwavering, elemental that refuses to be domesticated. And while this may have caused friction throughout your life, I want to remind you that this friction is not failure. It's evidence that your soul came here with a different contract. You were not sent here to pretend everything is fine. You were sent to reveal what isn't. And to turn that revelation into healing. You were born to take the raw, the painful, the unbearable, and alchemize it into wisdom. You were meant to feel the depth of what others avoid, and to return from those places with insight, clarity, and a heart that still chooses compassion. That has always been your path, not the path of avoidance, but the path of transformation. You didn't come here to bypass the brokenness. You came to walk through it with eyes wide open, and through that walk, to find something holy in the wreckage. Your pain has never been meaningless. It has always carried instruction, and maybe that's why your journey has been so intense. Maybe that's why love for you has always meant more than romance, and loss has always felt more like initiation than misfortune. Your heart, though scarred, is not fragile. It is directional. It remembers the places it has broken, and it uses that memory like a compass, not to avoid hurt, but to find meaning within it. You know how to sit with suffering without flinching. You know how to look into someone's shadow and still see their light. That's not just empathy, Scorpio. That's sacred vision. Your power isn't in how much you can endure. It's in how deeply you can feel without turning bitter. It's in your ability to move through darkness and still choose tenderness. To lose your way and still return with something to give. You are not here to be invincible. You are here to be real. And your realness, unfiltered, unguarded, uncompromising, is the very medicine this world so desperately needs. So let others chase perfection. Let others build illusions. You, Scorpio, were made for truth. And the truth, as difficult as it may be, is the doorway to everything you came here to become. Scorpio, the 3rd of July, opens a doorway not out there in the cosmos, but deep within you. A subtle crack is forming beneath the surface of your consciousness. And through it, fragments of your past are beginning to rise. Memories you thought had long faded, emotions you believed were resolved, versions of yourself you've outgrown but never fully released. They're surfacing now, not to haunt you, but to be heard. This is not a disturbance. It's a sacred summons. And the most important thing you can do today is not resist it. You may feel the urge to shut it down, to distract yourself, to convince your mind that this is just another emotional wave that will pass. But Scorpio, this is not just another wave. This is the ocean asking you to finally dive back in, not to drown, but to retrieve something sacred that was left behind. These memories, these echoes from other times, carry pieces of your truth that never had the chance to be witnessed. Let them come, let them speak. Let them finish the story they started long ago, because only when the whole truth is seen can true closure begin. This is not about reliving pain. It's about liberating the energy that has been locked away in the shadows of your inner world. It's about calling back the parts of yourself that were frozen in moments of fear, shame, or silence. And this time, you meet them not as the wounded version of who you were, but as the powerful, present force of who you've become. This is root-level healing, the kind that doesn't just soothe the symptoms, but rewrites the entire pattern. If you can hold steady and let the process unfold, you won't just feel relief. You'll feel reclamation. You'll feel whole. So if something breaks open today, let it. If tears come, let them fall. If old words, old names, old regrets find their way into your thoughts, don't push them away. They're not here to derail you. They're here to set you free. And Scorpio, You, more than anyone, know freedom rarely arrives without a little fire and a lot of feeling. But this time, the fire isn't here to destroy, it's here to cleanse. And when the smoke clears, what remains will be real, unburdened, and ready to begin again. Scorpio, if there's one truth the universe wants you to hold close today, it's this. You do not need to be understood. You do not need to be accepted. You do not need to be explained. What you need, what your soul has always quietly asked for, is the permission to be fully, unapologetically real. Not the version of you that fits into spaces, not the version that avoids conflict or hides behind emotional armor, but the version that breathes fire and tenderness in equal measure. The version that doesn't shrink, doesn't perform, doesn't dilute their essence to keep others comfortable. The 3rd of July is not just a date, it is a turning point in your evolution. A portal through which you can either continue surviving on half-truths and polite concealments, or step boldly into the kind of life that reflects your actual frequency. You've spent so much of your energy trying to manage how much of yourself to reveal, how much to soften, how much to guard. But what if the final layer of defense, those last walls you built to protect your heart, have served their purpose? What if the greatest act of courage now is not to fight, but to open? Because Scorpio, you were never meant to just survive this life. You were meant to transform it, to walk through your own darkness and emerge with a light so authentic that others feel safe enough to do the same. You are not here to follow the light of someone else. You are the torchbearer. You are the quiet flame that stays lit even when everything around you goes dark. And it's precisely because of what you've endured, because of the shadow you've known, that your light is trustworthy. It does not blind. It guides. So if today you feel the tremble of truth rising, don't suppress it. If a part of you wants to cry, to speak, to scream, to laugh without permission, let it. Not to prove anything, not to perform, but because your soul is ready to stop editing itself for the sake of belonging. You are already worthy. You are already whole. And from this place of wholeness, you do not need validation. You simply need alignment with who you've always been, beneath the fear, beneath the silence, beneath the armor. You are not a survivor anymore. You are a guide. And the world doesn't need you to be perfect. It needs you to be true. So shine not to be seen, but to remind others that they too carry a flame. And so, Scorpio, as we close this sacred space, I want you to take a breath, not the shallow kind that keeps you functioning, but the deep, anchoring breath that reminds you you're still here, still evolving, still becoming. What we've explored today isn't just astrology, it's remembrance, a return to the truth you've always carried, buried beneath years of silence, survival, and self-protection. But now, you know, now you feel it. And once truth has been named, it cannot be unlearned. You don't need to rush into transformation. You don't need to have all the answers. You only need to begin, softly, honestly, bravely, one moment at a time, one layer at a time. And when it gets hard, and it might remember this, your power was never in how much you could endure. It's in how much of yourself you're willing to reclaim. If today's message stirred something inside you, trust it. Let it move you. Let it guide you. And when the world feels too loud, come back to this space, to your own knowing, to the quiet truth that no one else can give you and no one can take away. Thank you for walking this path with me. Until next time, stay close to your depth, stay loyal to your light, and above all, stay true to your soul.